Welcome to Immigration Info, your ultimate hub for all things immigration. Looking for visa tips, country guides, and the latest immigration updates? You're in the right place. Subscribe for expert insights and join our global community today.
President Biden's recent executive order on border control has sparked widespread debate and concern across the nation. The new policy, intended to regulate asylum seekers at the U.S.-Mexico border, is being criticized by many who argue that it will have severe and unintended consequences. This article delves into the reasons why Biden's new border plan is seen as problematic by a significant portion of the public and various advocacy groups. On Tuesday, after months of speculation, the Biden administration revealed an executive order aimed at closing the border to asylum seekers. The rule, which took effect early Wednesday, marks the administration's most stringent measure to restrict asylum yet. It essentially bars asylum claims when the daily average of crossings exceeds 2,500 for 7 consecutive days, reopening only when there is a sustained decrease in arrivals. For more than 3 years, border crossings have consistently exceeded this threshold, indicating that these restrictions will likely remain in place indefinitely. During these shutdowns, individuals fleeing persecution will be ineligible for asylum and may only access 2 limited forms of protection: withholding of removal and Convention Against Torture Relief, both of which require a much higher standard of proof. To qualify for withholding of removal or Convention Against Torture protections, asylum seekers must immediately express their fear upon arrival and substantiate their claims, often without legal assistance or the ability to gather necessary evidence. These protections do not lead to lawful permanent resident status or citizenship and do not allow for family reunification, leaving many families separated. Individuals denied protection under the new rule could face a 5-year re-entry ban and potential criminal prosecution if they attempt to return. Critics argue that this punitive approach fails to address the underlying issues driving migration and instead exacerbates chaos and danger at the border. The new policy has faced swift condemnation from human rights organizations, the UN Refugee Agency, and progressive lawmakers. They argue that it represents a harsh shift to the right on immigration policy, contradicting both U.S. law and international norms, which prohibit returning refugees to countries where they may face persecution or torture. Asylum seekers, often wrapped in blankets to protect against harsh weather, are forced to wait in makeshift camps at the border, vulnerable to violence and exploitation. The executive order has been compared to policies from the Trump administration, notably the asylum ban, which was eventually struck down by the courts. Civil rights groups, including the ACLU, have vowed to challenge Biden's new policy in court. President Biden defends the executive order as necessary for restoring order and controlling the border. Despite recent declines in crossings, his Department of Homeland Security asserts that these restrictions will deter irregular migration amid political backlash against perceived border chaos. However, history shows that crackdowns on asylum often lead to more disorder and do little to deter those fleeing for their lives. Many asylum seekers at the U.S. border come from countries plagued by human rights abuses, violence, and economic instability, which are exacerbated by climate change. Restrictive policies only push these individuals toward more dangerous migration routes, increasing their risk of harm. The timing of Biden's announcement, close to the 85th anniversary of the voyage of the Street Louise, a ship carrying Jewish refugees turned away by both Cuba and the United States, highlights the potential human cost of denying asylum. Many of those refugees later perished during the Holocaust, an event that helped shape modern refugee protection laws. Critics argue that Biden's policy could repeat this tragic history by turning away those fleeing violence and persecution. While the administration's goal is to address immigration challenges, the approach has ignited controversy and legal battles. The debate continues as policymakers and the public weigh the effectiveness and morality of these measures against the United States' long-standing role as a refuge for those in need. President Biden's new border plan has ignited significant debate and opposition. Critics warn that it may worsen existing issues and lead to unintended consequences. As the controversy unfolds, the nation grapples with balancing border security with upholding its historical commitment to protecting asylum seekers.